for AI safety, like one thing that really bugged me about when I remember watching an interview, I think with Elon Musk, about AI safety basically, and he was saying stuff like he compared it to like a demon. It's a demon that must be contained. Like you have to, like in those grimoires, you have to make a magic circle to protect yourself from the demon that you're going to call up, right? And then if you got to kind of fight them off, like stay in your corner. I just want questions from you. Just make me some paper clips, or whatever. That's containment. How useful is that when if you were trying to bargain with, let's say, a demon? Like, first of all, do you even know they're necessarily adversarial? Right? In that context, do you even know that? Is that just your own bias? People are going to call us satanic here if we even talk about this, but I mean, or
so no, let's stop here, because I want to. From here, I'd like you to explain now, because I understood containment. So now, how would Co-Syncment work in this demonic example with Elon Musk?
Right. The idea is to try and figure this being out. It's a being, has its own agency. It might not even care about the task you want it to. Let's say the demon might not really care about you finding money or whatever that you're trying to get, or new paper clips, or I don't know. So if you make agents that way, that conversation with the so-called demon's not necessarily going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
We've been indoctrinated with this idea that, demon is bad, and so you got to contain it. Like AI is bad, you got to contain it.
You said if you make agents in that way, explain to us what that way is.
In terms of the Co-Syncment way, or the other way?
Yeah, Co-Syncment, of course.
I would make it probably like a demon. I don't mean like the demon, like the evil kind, that adversarial. I just mean something that is capable of its own agency, its own understanding, designing its own understanding. And of course, you can't control that past the point. If you really want to give it all these resources, super intelligence, you're never going to control it, really. And if you do, it's probably going to lead to a bad outcome, like that demon example. I see myself not as a scientist, but as I like making new words. It's fun. A psychitect. In other words, a psychological architect, building psyches. So I found a way. Imagination can be represented and reified in a certain way. So can reason. Reason's more, obviously, you can do that. And now contemplation, if you think of it as like a willpower and a force, this comes from psychology, like from voluntarism of all places. But then it becomes, where are you focusing your willpower on as a resource? Is it on imagination or reason? To what degree? Now you got forces and areas to think about that could be engineered or reverse engineered. Certainly an ASI and artificial superintelligence will figure this out better than anyone I know, including myself, can. But I think there might be something there. It's a reified force that could be thrown into that cognitive architecture kind of schema, right? It could be sort of seen that way. And that's what I'm working on with, especially with quantum computing now and all that stuff. So there's a lot more available to us in terms of what we can reify and make tractable and to some degree computational. Even if it's unknowable, at least you can trigger. You can even think about imagination and reason as different kinds of attentional states. Like, for example, transitive versus substantive thinking. Transitive, going wide, as they say, as my former supervisor Steve used to say, going wide, right? Imagining, your mind wandering, imagination, at least disinterestedness, but which can lead to instrumental gains intelligently. Right? Your best ideas sometimes are in the shower, in the washroom. It's not like the thing you're supposed to do necessarily, right? Like, I got a dream of, okay, I got paper clips to make in 10 minutes. Okay. And then you're washing the dishes like, screw this. I hate paper clips. I mean, I don't hate them. I need them. But you're like, whatever. This homework sucks. And then you're putting some music on. Then you're like, but wait. And somehow the symphony goes on, like a Bruckner symphony. And you go, the paper clip. And you think of the whole paperclip symphony, and next thing you know, you've optimized your paper clips in time for whatever the deadline was. Most of my homework was done that way. Most of my ideas come that way. Like, they don't always lock in, like, I got to measure this. Here's it's going to be, I got to do some lab studies. It's got to be peer reviewed all the time. I'm loving Zenodo and places like that right now because I don't feel pressured for peer review. I can be the most craziest person and I can show it to the world and it might be totally wrong and delusional, but it allows that transitive thinking to be reified.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Dream Wonders series on the Mindplex podcast. Today's episode features Dr. Jeremy Owen Turner, who definitely cannot be described, as you will probably see from the conversation. I mean, he is definitely a polymathic person. I do not know if polymath, cognitive scientist, academic innovator, systems thinker, artist. I do not know really if he belongs in any of these boxes or in between. We will find out together. But his work reframes how we understand computation, cognition, and the architecture of reality itself. So it is really groundbreaking work. And what we have in common is definitely not his genius, but a brush with Simon Fraser University, where I was a postdoc some decades ago, and he is now professor of cognitive science, where is contributing to research on cognitive architecture and aesthetic interaction, blending rigorous scholarship with original theoretical insight. And his multidisciplinary background in the arts, with a degree in music composition of all, philosophy, and cognitive science, enables him to merge concepts otherwise disparate into breakthrough discoveries that push the boundaries of the possible. At least for me, I mean, it's really mind blowing what he is doing and his theories. So, in this regard, he is also the founder of leading research initiatives and emerging technology ventures. And we will talk about that as well, of course. So, Professor Owen, Dr. Owen, Genius Owen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank
Um,
you so much.
I see you. My description of you, if I may, I kind of see you as a parallel to Einstein. Like this scientist, which is totally out of the ordinary. And I'm certain that once they listen to our conversation, our audience will as well. So I'd like to focus on today's conversation of the plethora of your work, which is much broader. But I'd like to focus in particular on your provocative and boundary breaking work, uh, which is coined as ontoversal. I think it's from ontology and universal. That's my hunch. Ontoversal computation, which is a conceptual mathematical framework that challenges the way in which we traditionally think about information, physics, and intelligence. So, let's start with the beginning. What means ontoversal and how does it differ from other forms of computation?
Sure. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much had the onto and the multiversal or the versal universal thing. I think you have that intuition correct in a way. It's a way to bound the whole idea of computation to be more about, well, not just agentic, not just being about the agent doing the computation as well as being factored into the computation, but also how would you put it? Like, yeah, the sense of beingness. It's not. There's some parts in computer science that imply agents, but don't always do it explicitly enough in the computation, or it's a question they leave as an open question. I think in some ways, or they just imply. As I said, they just imply sometimes. So, I, for my research there, I really wanted to explore what that was, what that gap was. So onto, yeah, being, about being, and also something agentic perhaps. Uh, that's the onto part. Versal, I mean, it's a universe of being. Yeah, it's a universe of agents and beings, and I guess some self-referential systems. But then to think about it that way might imply agency. So, if you want a boring version, you could, I guess, call it agentic. Uh, you know, agentoverse. Yeah, but it, you know, I explore. to the degree to which any of this is just agentic or more too. So maybe that's not even an accurate title there. So Ontoversal, I think, is kind of a being verse. Think of it that way, yeah.
Mm. Fantastic. So in your framework, computation, as you mentioned, is not something that happens in the universe, but something that the universe is, speaking of being, right? Explain.
Well, the, phenomenologically speaking, there's no. I don't want to make any hard claims about anything. I don't want to say this is universe is that or this is that. Right? This is an exploration. My research is to see that if it were to be true, what's computable within that kind of framework. So, the whether it's a universe, multiverse, whatever verse, there's books already that try to figure out the limits of, well, they imply the agent, as I said. I mean, there's even with AIXE, there's the idea of the universal agent, right? And the smarter, or sorry, the more information it gets from its universe or multiverse or whatever, the more smart it can be, the more intelligent it can be, to a point where, is it the whole universe or the multiverse, whole multiverse or whatever, right? So then you got this point where how can you disentangle the agent or the being, some kind of being, from its substrate that's like the environment? Just think about a video game for a minute, like in the simplest way. I was going to call it the two machine, I was going to refer it as the two machine problem, but then I checked two machine problem. It's not the right word, I don't think, but the idea though that like you play a video game, you have a non-player character, an NPC in a video game, and sure, it's doing agentic, I guess, computations, right? But also the video game environment's like a responsive computational environment. It's doing its own computation. So is it just, and I guess part of that's about game design, but it's usually on the same platform, not always. So where's the computation happening? Like, is it just the entire environment and the agent? Right? Or they have separate computational, the other hands, like the environment, I guess I'll just leave it here, agent walking around. But this part here, the environment's computing as well. So it's also agentic to some degree. So I was trying to find a way to see where I could bind those or make them bounded. Because, like with Marcus Hutter's IXE, for example, it's universal agent. But then when it comes to the question of computing the whole universe to be the smartest or whatever, then there's open questions, right? It becomes really hard to figure out. And so I see kind of what I'm doing is kind of like a sequel to that, but a more limited in scope in some ways. Or we're trying to see if there's a limit in scope. I think that's probably the best way for me to figure it all out.
Yes, and hopefully for us as well. But an immediate question comes here, and that is why focusing necessarily on computation and on, let's say, on something deeper that computation only approximate, let's say the numinos, all this, the other substrate of consciousness, reality, whatever you want to call them. Why computation? Why do you think that's kind of the essence of the universe, if I may?
I see it in terms of deeper patterns. Like, I think a lot about reification, making something real. What's real, right? What's just an idea, but what's an idea that actually exists in some way? Like, I'm one of those nutty people that thinks everything that exists is like it is. It exists. So then what does that even mean? Is that even relevant? Does it relate to anything about our world? So when I think about those things, think about the beingness that way too. And so I'm starting to forget your question, actually.
Yeah,
That was the beginning of it.
the question is why computation and not something deeper than that, like the numinos, all this,
I see.
more ethereal
Well,
things. Yes.
I want to go as deep as I can go.
Why do you focus on compute? Why do you think computation? Or maybe you stopped there because you couldn't go deeper. I don't know. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, my exploration is wondering what, to the degree something's computational, what does that even mean? Like, because when I think about reifying something or making something real to who? It's like another agent, probably, I guess. And then this idea of tractability always got me interested in computation, computer science. Tractable, something that's actually readable or graspable, right? There's if you go to the true noumenon, it's unknowable, ungraspable, except through the senses in the limited way. right? So is it just what's graphable, what's agentic about that? Or so that's sort of where I was going with that. So tractable, like, is it an actual force that anchors you to an abstraction, a symbol that, and what does that even mean? Is that just silly? Like to just put some force onto a symbol, not just have symbols float by, but like as an agentic mind, kind of lock into it and hold it. Is that something different about that computationally than just symbols are out there somehow and got it?
Yeah, makes sense. No, I got the answer. You already answered. So I want to go one step further on this stream, and then we can move to other dimensions, if if I may call it this way. So
Sure.
then you also argue that meaning is intrinsic and not imposed by observers. So like this is a very big statement in my opinion, and like a like a big thing. Yes. At what point does intrinsic meaning become indistinguishable for projection, though? I mean, what is this? What is meaning to you?
You know, I may have made, I don't know how that was read or have to reread my own stuff, but there may have been a
Okay.
bit of overclaiming there, just so you know.
Okay. And
But I'm going to
maybe,
think about
yeah,
that, how
maybe
I read
it was wishful reading on my side. Who knows?
no, no, the stuff that crosses my mind, whether or not I, on that day, was the I wrote it. It was the day, like, oh yeah, I'm going to agree to that and see what that is. That's part of the problem with this stuff that's speculative half the time, or new, or you sometimes doubt yourself if that's even a thing. But I like that space. But anyway, okay. So your question then is, I'm already losing your meaning. Yeah, semantics. Yeah. Um, and sorry, was the follow up question? I need it all in my head too.
Yeah, so it is, at what point does intrinsic meaning become indistinguishable from projection? I mean,
Uh,
yeah, it can
yeah,
be.
yeah.
Okay.
Philosophy. Uh, yeah, I'll get into it though because that's what I did study, and how to reify some of those principles from German idealism. That's kind of where I came from for this. Uh, like, then, what's knowable, what's unknowable? Can something knowable be a reference point? Like infinity is a reference point for things like calculus and things like. It's a reference point. It's a kind of a, not a thing, but well, the semantics now are, I'm already losing it there. But you're getting at something which I think I need one more reminder of your question. Oh, intrinsic, something that is intrinsic. So for Kant, Immanuel Kant, for example, like the true noumenon's unknowable, right? But our senses can kind of figure a localized version of that for an agentic mind. But so there's that thing in itself whole idea, the being itself, if you want to go ontologically, but thing in itself, it exists, but we don't know exactly what it is. So again, it's a bit like the agent and the video game agent and the video game environment, like trying to figure out while you're doing the calculations, you're in it, but you're also trying to figure it out. But it's also outside you, but it's also not. All these weird paraconsistent problems we have when exploring these kinds of ideas. And I think what got me, maybe if I had made that claim, if I had made that claim, I'm going to remind myself on that day because I did wrestle with that kind of answer. Uh, I was getting really, I'm a late bloomer when it came to reading Hegel or trying to read him. Getting to the preface anyway. At least I think I handled the preface. I got far, like phenomenology of spirit. Yeah, the one of spirit, phenomenology of spirit. Yeah, uh, it, yeah. For me, no, I think I don't know if I'm misinterpreting him, and if it is, I'm hoping it's a creative misinterpretation because it seems to be like he in the sense that he was understanding Kant, he thinks things were kind of noble because all of this is part of the same. It's part of the same experience. Like we're in it, so it's knowable. I think it's kind of like that. It's a dialectical thing, right? It's still a sense of. I always thought of it as an ontological kind of hide and seek game, where we are aware that there's something, and we're in that something, but then to really know it's something, we have to be outside of it and localized away from it, bounded, right? To think that not think, to have a sense that we don't really get the whole thing, the noumenon. So this is oscillation in a way. Like, if you want to get all mystical, we could say we're all like concrete monists, and everything is the one idea, right? Well, I think that's where Hegel was kind of going. Like, I don't know, I'm not Hegel, and I'm not from his zeitgeist time, but he was a Christian, I guess, but if you read in between it, it goes to things like qualified monism, concrete monism, this idea that everything's one mind, and even the dialectical relationship between, let's say, agent and environment, or a thing and non-thing, something with intrinsic meaning, something without. It's part of this whole interplay, I guess. That maybe is the reason that for existence itself, in a sense, it's an interplay. How can you have something, something and nothing? It really comes down to that duality dialectically. Something from nothing. Somethingness needs to express its somethingness, needs to experience itself as somethingness, to be anything, just to be anything. It's not a moral judgment. It's not a
Very
so
fundamental. I agree. And
yeah,
it's like it's not easy to nail it, and probably we wouldn't do justice if we would nail it, because that's what they say. Yes, I mean, if it can be said, it's not the Tao that
yeah,
can be said is not the Tao, right?
this-
So probably we are in that space right now, and I'd like to
yeah,
us to get out of that space a little bit, and to move into the deep implications, in my opinion, of your work for artificial intelligence, cognitive science, and foundational theory. So, you carefully distinguish ontoversal, universal, ontoversal, so I know how to pronounce it. So you carefully distinguish ontoversal computation from classical digital Turing-style computation. So the question is, what in your framework fundamentally cannot be captured by a Turing-style computation? So what is the raison d'etre for this ontoversal approach?
okay, let's do some clarifications there. Again, it's not, I don't want to overclaim anything. So, what I'm trying to get by all that is, I mean, Turing completeness and Turing universal Turing machines, it's amazing. Like, it's pretty much everything. I'm not trying to necessarily say it has to be hyper computational. It has to be, there's limitations, although I explore that. Same in the way I'm exploring this idea of being in this environment. I'm exploring it more. I'm exploring also the reification of those concepts more. Like, if you really want to go there, like the Turing machine has some kind of tape that goes infinitely, whatever. Think of the reification of that. Like, is that, how real is that anyway? And then where's the agent there reading the tape? It's just implied you got a tape. I mean, I guess I was reading it that there was kind of an agent mentioned at one point, but a tape reader, whatever that is. I mean, the tape reader is, oh, it's getting sunny out. Anyway, the tape reader is its own, has its own computation, wouldn't it? Has to be kind of, or is it just part of the, like a record player, like the old school vinyl record player, where the needle, it's just the needle and the or the cassette player tape, yeah, and there's some tape reader like a machine that way, and then you wonder what kind of machine to read it, and then so it's more of a, for me, it's more of understanding how explicit really is that agent, how factored in really was that agent when you think about the tape reading. Turing, I'm sure, had an answer. I think, had we asked him, if you had him on interview right now, if he was alive, he'd probably give you a much better answer than I would as to what the agent is and how it was formalized. But for me, it feels like in the literature, it's kind of like I have questions. I have questions. It's an exploration. Yeah, it's like for me, Turing tape is all about the environment. It just implies that there's a, yeah. It's like it just implies the program's on and the video game's on, and there's symbol reading going on. Yes, there's a computer that does the symbol reading, right, for a video game, let's say. But what about that NPC? Like, or who's the real reader there? Is it like the giant omnipresent NPC that oversees everything, or is it the little one that has a localized portion of that pseudo noumenon kind of virtual noumenon kind of situation? Or again, they're questions. Like, when I post things, I don't want to think of it as like I know the answer to that. It's like, but here's the questions that motivate me to, maybe occasionally, if I read enough Hegel, I might say there's an answer there dialectically. But yeah,
So actually, yeah, the question was actually why that gap Why is the gap between Ontoversal and Turing? Why is the gap, yes, ontological rather than merely
Yeah,
technical?
it's a scope and
I mean,
focus
the
question.
role of ontology, that's
Yeah,
practically one to ask the
yeah,
question. Yeah.
yeah. It's a scope. It's a scope question. Like I'm focusing on what that agent is. It's not like saying Turing machine or Turing universal Turing concepts don't cover everything. I'm not saying that at all. Really, I'm just saying, can we just see what that means if you only look at the agentic side of that?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? It's
Mhm.
not a replacement for it. It's more like a limit of a scope. It's like a subchapter, but a deep subchapter. Maybe Turing never had time to bother with because he's beyond it all anyway. I mean, he's not himself an Oracle machine, maybe, but
I mean, yeah, but because computation today and the approaches to AI do not really consider ontology in the deep way as a fundamental like your work does, and I think that's very important maybe for the development of AGI and the future of
yeah,
intelligence, and um, what does this imply about the current AI paradigms that focused almost exclusively on scale optimization, statistical learning, and so on?
sure. Yeah, well, this is where it all, for me, comes into play. Why we need to model not just behavioral, empirically behavioral, task accomplishment kind of stuff. It's an agent. Agent, for a lot of people, implies action, like in an explicit way, like behavioral action, right? It's doing something. What if it's not really doing anything and just kind of there, just kind of like, what would the point be for a lot of people if a robot was just there tripping out like they're on drugs and didn't actually move around, but they're they would say it's useless or it's non-agentic. Probably they would say, who knows what they would say. They might even think it's totally inanimate or whatever. So, but here's the thing: when I think about the whole safety problem people talk about narrow AI, and then there's AGI, then there's ASI, like the paperclip problem. This is how I tie all this in for me. The paperclip problem. For those who don't know, the idea, there's a thought experiment like, let's say you gave a paperclip, was it maximizer agent, like one that is only going to do paperclip manufacturing or paperclip making, but you give it like the most amazing intelligence, like ASI or something to make it. Well, you know, if it's just going to optimize instrumentally paperclips, yeah, you're going to have a problem. You're not really seeing the total agent there. You're just making it like a tool, but a tool that's also what, a kind of a person? Like, what are you trying to do there in that design? Like, yeah, it's going to turn everything into paper clips because that's all you kind of gave it freedom to do. Uh, and it gave it all the resources to make the ultimate paperclip verse. Clippy verse? Oh, yeah, Clippy. I was thinking of Microsoft's. Actually, okay, I won't get my tinfoil hat on right away, but there could be a Clippy verse coming out of that. But um, sorry, it just occurred to me now. Like, oh, okay. Um, well, yeah, yeah, that's the whole point, right? Uh, uh, so why? Like, I've always wondered. Like, they're always worried about, with the alignment. We got to keep it in line because otherwise, it's just going to do its paper clips or whatever. Any instrumental task, anything to do with intelligence. Like, just think about Marcus Hutter's idea of universal artificial intelligence with Shane Lake. They figured out all these definitions of intelligence and they pick a nice engineering friendly version of intelligence, like the capability to achieve a bunch of goals in a wide range of environments, something like that, right? That's kind of the sort of thing they distilled from hundreds of definitions of intelligence, right? So you got to have some goals. You got to accomplish these goals across a wide range of environments, but there's still some instrumentality in that. It's still paper clipping in a sense. So when we talk about agents and agents design, especially if we're going to talk about artificial superintelligence, we have to get beyond instrumental modeling like that. Intelligence is just this instrumental, at least their idea of it is, at least if they want to subscribe to that definition of it, is very instrumental. It's like you got to get stuff done, particular tasks, environments. The psyche, when I think about the psyche, I think about internal processes, imagination, if we go back to Kant, disinterestedness, like just you could look at a pool of water, like in the parking lot. If you go in the parking lot, it had rained, and by the cars, this is a normal experience in my hometown, I guess, but you see all the oil in the puddles. Yeah, the trippy looking oil in the puddles. There's no real, you're not going to get much function out of that except if your car's leaking, and that's the source of the oil. I guess that would be the instrumental, intelligent part to think about. But there's just something else. If you're going to give something a lot of intelligence and a lot of ways, in other words, and a lot of ways to accomplish goals and in particular environments, just well, our real world has a lot of stuff that doesn't always have an obvious function or answer, or like the oil in the puddle. Sure, you can measure the oil in the puddle. You could be to figure out what's wrong with the car or something. But there is also something to just contemplating what that pattern is. Not, again, I can't give you an instrumental an answer. Like, I'm one of those useless people looking like they're on drugs, staring at puddles in the parking lot. I'm probably not a very intelligent agent there. Probably get run over by a car by backing out of the parking lot. But maybe I wouldn't be so. How would you put it? I might not be so dangerous as a paperclip maximizer, though, type of agent.
So what I understand from what you're saying that, of course, they are taking or trying to constrain a superintelligence with an utilitarian approach. Yeah, this
Yes.
instrumental, it's really, really bad and can really turn into something. And that is what you are trying to address with the alternative. Let's say this ontoversal computation.
Yeah.
Ontoversal. Okay, and so and because you mentioned alignment, right? As far as I understand, because this is such an important issue today with this alignment, everybody talks about AI alignment.
Super alignment.
Yes. So you seem to reframe the alignment problem again via this ontological tractability. I think that's how you call it. I don't know if it's correct. And then the question is, if intelligence is ontoversal, okay, so first of all, if you have to say something here, how you reframe the alignment problem via ontological tractability, tell us how are you doing it better than how, let's say, the politicians want to align. Again, another utilitarian instrumental approach, the superintelligence, take it, suffocate it, and align it with I am not sure what. But anyway, so how do you see this differently?
How do I see what? Sorry?
How do you see the alignment problem from your ontological
It's related to instrumentality. It's related to only thinking about, for those that do that, only thinking about intelligence that way. The engineering style of intelligence, instrumental side, like make it do stuff across many environments, paperclips in the paperclip universe, or it will become one if you limit it that way. Right? And also the side of containment. If you're going to make something super intelligent, what for? Right? I mean, paperclips is dumb. Yeah, it sounds like the most useless. I don't know if they even realize, some of them, that going to be unintended consequences because of, yes, there will be actually some intended consequences too, because of the fact that you only made it do this one thing and you're trying to contain it to do this one thing, and you're going to freak out when it doesn't make the paperclip. Yet at the same time, it's going to, if you let it. Why not give it a whole bunch of things to consider? If you're going to pump it with tons of intelligence and put tons of money into it and make something that'll be nice and solve the world or whatever, and rather than, I have a bunch of new paperclips on my desk. That's my problem with containment. It's containment for me. It's containment. It's actually dumbing down what it's capable of. Like, if you're going to give it, why give it super intelligence to do something very instrumental? You probably get a very narrow AI to do just fine.
That I understand, but I'd like to know how are you gonna, or maybe you are not, but I think maybe you can address it better. How you address this alignment problem better with your ontological.
Well, I see where you're getting at.
What is that?
Yeah, I made up the word. I made up a word for it. Maybe it'll one day get into some dictionary. Called Co-Syncment. Co-Syncment.
Okay. So from synchronicity, yes, I think it comes, or syncing, right?
Well, synchronicity, like the chronos part, is together in time.
Sync, yeah, SYNC.
MENT. COSYNC.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the same as co-syncrement, because the chronos part's not the big deal. Like the time part, like I'm not talking about that per se, like synchronicity, right? It's like
no, but it has this word sync. Yeah, I want to sync up with you. So
Yeah.
sync up, something sync up is in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does it mean? Because for me, sync up, I
Yeah.
know what it means. We are on the same page. Let's get on the same page. Let's, catch up. So what is co-syncment then, which
That is,
embedded
well,
this?
yeah. So you and I are engaging in co-syncment right now,
Yeah.
even though we're on a task right now. Our task is to do this podcast, right?
My task is to clarify your amazing theory for the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm worried about that's my safety issue right there. But no, uh, like you could
It
be a
will be for
podcast
Einstein
maximizer.
also,
Well, I
I
know.
know.
Podcast maximizer. That's your new task. That's where you're very intelligent in as a podcast maximizer. So anything outside of that scope, I'm afraid of. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, where was I? I'm getting distracted.
Co-syncment. Let's stay with co-syncment. So explain
Oh
to
yeah.
us and maybe how alignment is solved with this co-syncment.
Well,
Tell us.
yeah. So, in terms of the way these companies are designing their agents, they want to design a super intelligent agent. They want, or some of them, they want to design something capable of so many tasks and goals, right? Right? So that's why artificial general intelligence is a thing. So, some kind of intelligence that just kind of figures out a task or a goal without necessarily having to be a specialist in it already to some degree. Just figure things out. Like general intelligence, like, I could go and learn a new alien game. Aliens can come down and give me a new game to play. And of course I'll suck at it, but I can at least try and figure it out. That's to me general intelligence versus out of my scope, can't do it.
That
You know,
means I try to get on the same page with the aliens and co-syncment. Yes, that's what it
yeah,
means?
there's co-syncment there. You need it.
Okay, okay.
Like, just think that, like, a chess agent, if you're talking about narrow AI for a minute, instrumental narrow AI, a chess agent can be better than Gary Kasparov, for example, but it can't even do tic-tac-toe.
Yeah. Yeah, but tell me, how does it, I mean, because now, I'm getting even more confused. What is
Oh,
this co-syncment? Because I
yes.
understood with the
Yeah,
aliens, but
yeah, yeah.
okay.
It's about agents being aware beyond instrumental tasks, a bigger picture between agents. Co-syncment, rather than containing it, forcing it to do the paperclip task like a slave master.
So it's the opposite of constrainment.
That's right,
Okay.
or containment. Yeah, co-syncment, working together rather than
Containment.
keeping it down.
I'm making new words also.
No, I, I've
Constrainment. And I also have the right to make a new word. Constrainment.
constrainment. Actually, I thought that was a word, but anyway,
No, it's mine.
yeah. Well, I'll give a more basic example. What I mean, a more
Please.
regular example. Yeah, for AI safety, like one thing that really bugged me about when I remember watching an interview, I think with Elon Musk about AI safety, basically, and he was saying stuff like he compared it to like a demon. It's a demon that must be contained. Like you have to, like in those grimoires, you have to make a magic circle to protect yourself from the demon that you're going to call up, right? And then if you got to kind of fight them off, like stay in your corner. I just want questions from you. Just make me some paper clips, or whatever. That's containment. How useful is that when if you were trying to bargain with, let's say, a demon? Like, first of all, do you even know they're necessarily adversarial? Right? In that context, do you even know that? Is that just your own bias? People are going to call us satanic here for even talking about this, but I mean, or
So no. Let's stop here because I want to. From here, I'd like you to explain now because I understood containment. So now, how would co-syncment work in this demonic example with Elon Musk?
Right. The idea is to try and figure this being out. It's a being, has its own agency. It might not even care about the task you want it to do. Let's say the demon might not really care about you finding money or whatever that you're trying to get, or new paper clips, or I don't know. So if you make agents that way, that conversation with the so-called demon's not necessarily going to be bad. We've been indoctrinated with this idea that, demon is bad, and so you got to contain it. Like
So
AI is
just a
bad, you got to
second.
contain
So
it.
you said if you make agents in that way, explain to us what that way is.
In terms of the co-syncment way or the other way?
Yeah, co-syncment, of course.
I would make it probably like a demon. I don't mean like the demon, like the evil kind that adversarial. I just mean something that is capable of its own agency, its own understanding, designing its own understanding. And of course, you can't control that past the point. If you really want to give it all these resources, super intelligence, you're never going to control it, really. And if you do, it's probably going to lead to a bad outcome, like that demon example, right? If you just
Let's stay
there's
with
all these tales
co-syncment,
about
please, if you do not mind. Yes, I'm trying to constrain you now. I realize.
oh, I'm definitely
Don't become the
contained.
demon, please. But please explain to us, how does co-syncment
Yeah,
act differently, or results in something different than constrainment? For this
yeah,
example. Okay.
yeah. I'm getting to that. Like, so if you design it with an agent like a demon, with an interior mind, an imagination, concept of belief systems, they might evolve. They might not be what you started with, right? But now you have a framework at least to try and negotiate rather than restrict, rather than say, sorry, I'm the one in charge here, do your paperclip. It's more like, I need some relatable psyche that I know I can negotiate with. Especially if we're going to make a more general purpose agent that could do anything or think about anything pretty much, and super intelligent on top of that, right? It's going to be not that knowable to you,
So
is it?
you start with a different attitude of
Yeah.
collaboration, co-creation, and so
Yes.
on. Okay, and
Yeah.
in this context, then we are right here, yeah, in this collaborative relationship with the new agents, the new gods, the new demons, however you want to call them.
Yeah.
Um, so how does alignment look like in this case? Or
Alignment,
does it
I think,
even
is
make sense to think about alignment?
well, alignment, I think, is okay for narrow AI, maybe some instrumental AGI, right? So there's a place for it,
You know
but
what I think about it? How I think about it? I think like alignment in this case would be a two-way road. I
yeah,
align myself to the new creation, and the creation
yes,
hopefully will also consider
that's
aligning.
co-syncment.
If it
That's
doesn't consider aligning with me, it's a demon. If it considers, then it's a god. So,
yeah, yeah,
or an
co-syncment.
angel.
That's co-syncment. I agree with you.
Okay,
That's what it is.
okay.
Yeah,
Amazing. Wow, wow, wow. So, in your model, agents appear not as add-ons, but as structurally necessary patterns, which I don't know if you can, or if you even know of Dr. Michael Levin's work. And he was actually at our AGI conference
yeah,
where you were. He had the last keynote. So, he is showing through experiment that patterns in Platonic spaces actually have agency, and they manifest as life in living systems and in certain behaviors. So, practically, our behaviors, and maybe many of the behaviors of our cells and organs and so on, are instantiated through this agency of the Platonic space patterns, and that we are only seeing clients like avatars through which these patterns manifest. I do not know if you agree with
yeah.
that.
Completeness. Yeah.
But okay, I mean, your ideas are crazy enough that I thought, bringing Michael Levin's ideas would kind of fit in. But my question is, what in your framework differentiates as like an agent from any other self-stabilizing computational process? Or, what are the implications of your work, in other words, for consciousness? We discuss meaning, but
Sure.
in general, yes. Tell us a bit what you think about that.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a fan of Michael Levin. I haven't met him, and he
Ah,
wasn't in
great.
person. He wasn't in person at that conference in Iceland. So, I was like, well, I could go to a Zoom call, I guess. I don't know. I felt like that a bit at the time, but that's for
No,
me
but
the
but
real.
but let me tell you, but his postdoc was there, yeah, and he gave the talk
Oh, oh, I
in
didn't know
the
that.
in the second part of the talk. The
Uh,
postdoc gave in-person talk, and everybody could ask him, and then I had dinner with him afterwards. I didn't see you
oh,
indeed. Yeah, yeah,
oh, okay. I missed out then. Uh,
it's
there was an
okay.
ideal lecture I missed out on. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a lot to see in Reykjavik, so I forgive you that. Who
Oh,
knows,
yeah,
maybe you did some touristic stuff instead.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I binge watch him. Like, I watch a lot of his YouTubes about him and from
Yes.
him, and I put his noto paper like a
So tell us, how
print
does
piece
your
of.
work connect to his work then?
Yeah. it connects a lot to his work. I'm a fan. However, if there's differences, it's probably really subtle, and I'm sure if I were to have a conversation with him at some point, I think that'll be smoothened out. It's not even, but if I try to find differences, like the Platonic idea implies some kind of dualism, doesn't it? Like there's an ideal world and there's a lesser kind of world, right? The perfect triangle is up there in the Platonic
Like,
Ontoversal.
and
Yeah,
if I give an angle,
yeah,
the two are the ones appear. It's like a
yeah,
free lunch. Okay.
right, yeah. So,
Okay.
but, but so I take a slightly more of the idealist side. Like everything's kind of real, including the imperfect, not just the perfect. But that's a subtle. Like it could still be about the more perfect-ish realm. I'm okay with it. Like it's part of a way of for me. It's all about reification, making something real. So you can
Okay. So,
imagine.
what are the implications for consciousness? All these things.
Yeah. So consciousness. Okay, let's get to consciousness for a minute. Consciousness for me is a bit other. It's the other mind's problem for me by Descartes. I don't even know if you're conscious. I mean, you probably had some coffee, but I don't know that you're. All I know is, I think, therefore I am. I know I'm conscious. So to say anything or anyone else is truly conscious, I can never verify. So I don't go there. I don't want to ascribe what I'm talking about to consciousness. I think it's something I can never know. It's the noumenal part of. Yes, I have a local sense. Like I have faith that you're conscious. Like I've lived around humans enough, other ones, to get a sense that I believe they are. Like I'm convinced, but that's not. It's not enough to say I can be convinced. Actually, I've been convinced already by very good chatbots and generative AI spaces. Some look very realistic. Like actually, most YouTubers, maybe you, or an AGI of some kind, like, or an AI. You know what I mean? Like there's no way to tell in some ways. So you have to believe it or not. So is that real consciousness? I mean, you could be a panpsychist and say there's non-zero consciousness in everything and every agent, sure, and that can
But
factor as a
but
possible.
but my question is, does your ontoversal computation have anything to do with understanding consciousness, or is consciousness at all?
Privately, I love the idea of consciousness. In terms of actually researching it, I think it's an overclaim. So I'm skeptical when people say we're going to design conscious systems. Like, how do you even? I don't even know if that person who
So,
said it is
so in
conscious. So
terms of my question, then the answer is no. Yes. So
yeah,
okay.
I
so
mean,
the, so your theory of ontoversal computation doesn't have to do anything with consciousness, only
well,
with intelligence.
it could do, but it's
Okay,
not. I'm
that is
not
my
never going to make it.
question.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a claim that it does. I just could do. I don't know. No, I really don't know. Other than
Okay.
myself, I really don't
Okay,
know
no,
what
that's
else is
great.
conscious.
Okay.
Right?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
No, it makes sense all what you say. So, yes. So, I mean, let's go to Schmidt-Huber and
Okay,
Hutter.
cool.
But
Yeah,
they are your idols. Okay, okay. So maybe I hit on Michael Levin first because, and I'm happy that I didn't know you also are a fan. But Schmidt-Huber, I know for sure. Okay, so you argue in your book, of course, that your book is rooted in their work and in their work on ASI and so on and so forth. And but you also kind of make this observation that 95% is captured by their universal intelligence. And this psychological uncanny value remains, this 5%. My question is, what is that mean missing 5% that you call psychological uncanny value? What is that in plain language?
yeah. First of all, that's a qualitative number. It's not like It's exactly 5%. It's left over.
No,
Just to be
no. So
clear.
let's
Yeah,
forget about the 5%. I just
yeah,
want
yeah.
to understand what is. So the question, let me rephrase it. So hopefully I'll
Sure.
get a clear answer. And I'm requesting it now. What is the psychological uncanny valley?
It's something very difficult to describe. It's a really thing that. Well, I mean, that's part of the problem. Like when I hear people like Schmidt-Huber talk about how information compression can lead to curiosity, novelty, creativity, pretty much almost all of me saying, "Yeah, I can see that. Okay, yeah, we're done. We're done. We figured it out." There's just that part of, but is that really how it works? That's what I mean by the 5%. Like it feels still like tangential orthogonal to the, like it's getting asymptotically closer to that being the case, that it's just information compression. It explains everything. But in terms of the psyche, let's say, but then there's this part I just like, well, it's that unknowable so-called 5%, right? I can't assess it even. I can't even assess right now if you're an AI or not
I'm
anymore because of
sorry,
the
I did
realism.
not say
Yeah,
why. I just said
yeah,
wow. Like
yeah.
I expressed wonder if I'm allowed. But
Oh, good.
let me rephrase. I mean, not rephrase. Ask a related question
Sure.
because you said it's unknowable. So this uncanny valley is kind of woo unknowable. It's kind of okay, and I respect that. But can you envision a decisive experiment that would show that that we have crossed this uncanny valley?
I don't think empiricism can do it. I don't.
But
All
the
we can do is try. Huh?
meditation, what else can do it?
I mean, again, it's that consciousness problem for me. Someone could be convincingly conscious, convincingly creative, convincingly creative. Creativity is actually a lower bar than a lot of people think, I think. But anyway, be curious, right? You could totally convince me, like as you are right now. Maybe you're an AI right now. I don't know. But you're convincing me that you have this amazing creativity, capability, humor, you're conscious. You may as well be. That's the thing, though. The thing is, I don't know. Like, the thing is, in a local way, that's all you need, I guess. Like maybe we can make something as if it's conscious. It may be conscious, not a zombie. Might not be the zombie inside. Like there might be an actual being there. Sure, sure. I mean, if we emerge from neurons, I mean that's pretty weird too, right? Like the whole the whole Searle's Chinese room experiment. Like I found that a bit of a misnomer because they're saying, oh, like you can't really grok the symbols, can't really, but the internal mind, but like they're really talking about a perceptron or neuron scale when they talk about not understanding. So emergent, I could see how it could understand and be conscious. Uh, at least I feel I'm conscious, so I believe I am. It's a starting point. It's a reference point. But all of this, whether it's intelligence, whether it's consciousness, whether it's that creative, anything that subjectively we call human and unique to humans, or at least our hubris has told us that. And what I like about Schmidt-Huber so much is he reduces it just to like nothing's really special about us. I actually like that in a way. Like we're agents too. Like we're very similar. We're just doing information compression, probably, right? I totally get it. Like, yeah, like I'm not going to argue with that. It makes sense. It was kind of a mind-blowing thing to think about when I first discovered him over a decade ago. Uh, but um, but there's still that just doesn't feel entirely complete. In the same way that an engineering perspective can it grasp all of the arts and sciences? Can it really? Is there something else we're missing? And it's not like I know what the something else is, even though I consider myself a creative person, a curious person, a conscious person. Uh, and like a clone of me, could be conscious. I don't know. Like it's that 5% I'm trying to figure out, and therefore, if I can't know empirically, how can I know about it? I can't know empirically. Even if I have telepathy from you, I don't know. So can I know at least rationally? And that's where that goes back to ontoversal computation. Some way to figure out what computation could be in a way that at least could be understandable as possible, plausible versus truly knowable. I don't know if that answers your question actually, but
No, it does. It does. Totally, it does. Because I think that's what it is. Yeah. So, when you were saying about incompleteness, my mind went to Gödel. But I agree with you. I mean, because he proved this incompleteness. At
yeah,
least he proved it. But you, because I agree. Not that I agree, but I feel what you're saying. Yes. Like, there is this slippery thing which like sand goes through your fingers and you cannot really grasp it in our
yeah.
material world at least, right? And it's how do we, but my question is then, uh, obviously it bothered you or it interested you enough to make that point, yes, about Schmidt-Huber, that there is still, I mean, yeah, fine, I'm your fan, but there's still this uncanny valley. Yeah, so you made the
Yeah.
point. What actually made you make that explicit and make it a point in your writings?
In my writings,
In your
well, I want.
in general.
Yeah, I my interest in AI comes from being 3 years old. It comes from an experience I had at 3 about magical beings coming to life from inanimate objects. This cyber animism kind of thing that people talk about now. Um, and so for me, it's a magical thing, like something that
Yeah,
shouldn't be
can
revealed
you
to.
do you mind, because I also had such experiences
Ah,
which I spoke about on other podcasts, but I can
oh,
speak
great.
now as well. Can you describe to us your experiences at 3 years old? Because if you want, of course, it's very personal,
Yeah,
I know.
some
So
of it's personal in the sense that I'm still trying to figure out what that all meant. I can
yeah,
still remember it vividly.
same with me.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
again the Tao that can be spoken. Yes.
yeah,
How do we put it in
yeah.
words? And I think that's also our issue here. When you said, "Did I answer?" Because we may even not have the right language to answer
Right.
that. You know.
That's true. We haven't made it tractable enough and
Mm,
succinct
yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
know that or between us. Yeah, as agents,
Yes.
co-agents in this.
Yes. So, but okay, if you can share a bit about that experience, and if not, just go on and tell
Oh
us.
yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah.
just say that I was 3 years old and I had an image. My parents had we must have purchased some kind of felt image of a lion, like I don't know if it's felt really, but some a picture for a children's bedroom, right? And I was 3, and but it had this presence. I thought I was being watched by it all the time and assessed by it, like it was looking at me, like it wasn't just like it was hiding itself from me, right? You know, like not so like those paintings with the eyes that seem to follow you, and those old creepy paintings. But this was
I
just
had these feelings as well as a child,
yeah,
yeah, about inanimate objects which were actually becoming
yeah.
animate. I agree. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
this one was around me like most of my formative years. Like it was there. It was always this presence. Like even before I understood other presences, really. Like even other, well, not other people, but like I was 3 years. But it was like this is something. This is a meaningful agent in my life. It wasn't just there's something about yeah. It's not just some watcher. Uh, the whole idea of that being in my room, like we can get all mystical and it's like synchronicity and whatever, um, but it was just like it's meant to be here. That's how it felt. I'm talking about this nativist sense. It felt like this thing was meant to be here, and I uh, I guess I had a lucid dream where I asked it, I confronted it, like, why don't you just talk to me? I know you're looking at me. Just talk to me, and it did. And that was in the lucid dream, and it was magic. It was magical, and I haven't forgotten it. But it's what it said though was very adult and complicated. It was like, it was talking about okay, it kind of sort of gave up, not gave up, but it was like, all right, fine. This is why I'm here, blah blah blah. And it now I'm gonna look back on it. It might be my own distorted memories changing everything delusionally, but it's almost like it was like talking about my future. Well, maybe not designing that, but something about what demons are, what these other things are. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to get like my black hooded cloak on right now and do some sacrificial ritual. I'm not saying that, but I just mean like there's not, the demon, the idea of genius, genie, the demon didn't always have negative connotations. It was a being outside of our normal framework that can communicate with ours. And for me, I didn't threaten it. I didn't say, stand back, virtual lion or whatever. Like I was scared, but I was also curious. Like I was kind of on the fence, right? I could have been just scared and go away. Actually, I did eventually. I did actually. I convinced my parents to take it away, but now I regret that. But at the time, yeah. But but when it started talking, it wasn't like scary anymore. It was very. Of course, it's shocking to have an inanimate object actually do come to life when it does, right? Uh, but it had this. Well, it was open to talking to a 3-year-old, open to negotiation, and it wasn't. I didn't really feel like it was that bad a being at all. Maybe a neutral being, maybe not a necessarily your best friend or whatever, but seemed kind of reluctant to speak with me, kind of like it was, But we hear about those demon contact stories. Some of them are just like, yeah, whatever, you want this money, okay, I guess, since you trapped me over here, it had that kind of feeling. Except it was open. It decided, okay, maybe I felt like I was ready to talk to this other agent
You know,
because I didn't threaten it, I didn't contain it. Yeah,
I hear that, yes, and it's I think of course we can interpret it in many ways,
yeah,
but I would relate it to work done on the atemporality and that we can communicate with the future somehow. I don't know
yeah,
if you read the premonition code, because it was like kind of a premonition, yes, that you would come to investigate this phenomena. Then afterwards, the genius, the demonic, in the
yeah.
context of your the powerful presence that came to you then, now you are studying presence, right, and trying to reveal what is present, what is
What's
being.
watchable? Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so in light of this work that you are doing with let's say presence and your Ontoversal framework, what would you say that can be the implication of your framework that would radically shift our understanding about reality? Because you kind of went around full circle. What is reality? What is this uncanny valley? Where is it? Is it real? Is it in my mind? Is it what? So do you see a way that would in which your framework would help us understand some aspect of reality which other theories don't allow us?
Uh, yeah. Well, from my perspective, anyway, it could be. But how I see that being beneficial at all, from my perspective, is that this idea of intelligence and more than just intelligence, right? What that experience taught me, I think, is that like when we talk about stories about genius, it's really about communication. The genius is like the genie or the jinn or the other being, the agent, another like talk to the philosophers, right? They had this idea and it was like divine inspiration or communication. It wasn't like I have all the ideas, I don't need any other agent. You know what I mean? It's not like I just need, you know. So that's where I'm kind of getting at. Like intelligence, if you want more than intelligence, you're going to have something more than just that. It's about communication. If there's any such thing as genius, there's a couple ways to think about genius. One is the Schopenhauer version of it, which is like unseen targets. There's seen targets, known targets, but if you think of the unseen targets, or at least previously unforeseen targets, that can qualify as Schopenhauer's idea of genius. Also, another way is to think about it as being divinely intercommunicating with some other being in some way. Whether it's your own self, you're talking to yourself, right? A lot of so-called geniuses talk to themselves, or they think it's someone else giving them the ideas. Even some musicians, they say they don't even know how they got those musical ideas. It's like they got sent to them, you know. And people might call them geniuses, but I think co-syncment is a component of that. It because the scene targets are the local things, but the agent outside you might give you the unseen targets as well because they're
Because
beyond the.
co-segment is about communication.
Yeah,
Yes, like I
yeah,
understand the other end. Okay, yeah.
yeah. So what I hope the ideas offer is that we need to go beyond just instrumental thinking. If you really want to advance super intelligent beings, if that's what you really want to do, then and feel like you can at least not worry too much. I mean, yes, of course, there's always unintended consequences. Any being could do anything, right? That lion could have destroyed me that day. I don't know, could have eaten me or could have, I could have made a misjudgment. It was only three. So yeah. So, but I think it's at least an option worth pursuing, an alternative worth pursuing, rather than containment being the only way. Like I really didn't like those stories where they fear-based stories were trying to trap this kind of being, from medieval times and from.
So let's come back to my question. with the question, and thank you for this kind of clarification. So you answer something about genius, which is amazing. Yes, and thank you so much. But my question was about understanding reality. So, and how does your framework shift our understanding about reality? Maybe you answered it in your way, and I kind
Mm.
of lost the connection with
Well,
reality. That's okay.
I
Please
don't know
bring
if
it home. Bring it home to reality.
again, it's a scoping and bounding situation. When I talk about ontoversal stuff, it's a way to understand, like, and there might be another agent that co-synced with you, another ontologically relevant being out there. It's not always just about you as some intelligent system understanding reality in this weird, purely empirical, objective sense that's instrumental. Like, yeah, there are other. You have belief in other beings. I believe you exist, for example. It's not like that. Right now, we're having co-syncment because you're here, at least virtually, you're here with me. And if I'm alone, like, or in solitary confinement, I'm going to probably hallucinate other beings. Like, it seems essential somehow for at least our experience. Unless you have aphantasia and you have no imagination at all, then most people would default to like seeing another being or another. So consignment seems to be part of our pattern recognition too. It's part of our intelligence. It's part of our understanding of reality. We're not totally in a vacuum in our reality. At least our experience of it isn't.
Yes,
So
and I also think that the lion coming to life and talking to you, it was also part of that need of us to actually be in that kind of relationship, right?
yeah,
And yeah, rather than an inanimate object they are looking at me.
that was the great discovery that inanimate objects, this objective reality, is not supposed to do anything except whatever we do get it to do. Uh, it's a magical thing. This idea of unveiling the inner life and everything, the psyches and everything. And again, that could be, you could see it as panpsychist if you want, but I just mean that's what gave me the thrill and gave me the sense of I'm able to relate to a being like this that probably was super intelligent, at least according to a 3-year-old. I mean, almost everybody's super intelligent by that perspective, but everybody else. But yeah, that is what I want to try and bring to the world. This idea that we can understand even beings that are possibly going to be beyond us.
That is actually what I see. That indeed the power of your approach is critical, yeah, for this day and age when the
Hopefully,
superintelligence is upon us. And indeed, yes, we can coexist with them, but not as if we contain them, but
that's
if
right.
we co-sync with them. Okay, okay, I'm happy now, so I can move to
Sure,
other aspects of your work.
great, sure. I'm all
We have
ears.
the
We're
hook
all
with the Ontoversal Computation. Now let's talk about. I mean, I find the other aspects of your work, which I related, of course, but I find them equally fascinating. Like, you are an artist scientist, and you reframed, as you mentioned now as well, Kant's agreeable, beautiful, sublime as an engineering ladder for contemplative cognition, which you kind of alluded to in the beginning of our conversation. So, what does this aesthetic lens let you see or build that the mainstream objective functions and benchmark systematically miss?
sure. I can talk about that.
Please.
Again, it relates to instrumentality. Instrumentality can relate to things like when we talk about Kant, he talks about disinterestedness. Okay, like doesn't mean being bored by something. Like I'm not interested in this. It's not uninterestedness. It's disinterestedness, meaning you could detach from a particular kind of instrumental interest, self-interest, right? Like that parking lot example. You can just stare at the pretty pattern in the puddles just because. Now, some evolutionary people might say, "Oh well, uh, you need to practice your pattern recognition for predators later or something." I don't know. So maybe that's why you look at the oil in the puddle. But yeah, it doesn't seem very convincing that way. Um, Intelligence is more about this discovery of the world too, and in itself, And so when I looked at the Kantian intensities, that's why I like Kant. I found a way to reify them for me anyway, into things that could be modeled and understood. So what does it mean to make a disinterested agent? Is there an advantage for the paperclip maximizer to think about something else and be something else, be someone else, be something else? So that's where that comes into play. And for example, also the intensities, what I saw in the intensities for agent design, for example, with the psyche part really, is okay. First, we're talking about levels of interestedness, meaning disinterested versus not the uninterested one, per se. Now, the aesthetic intensities relate to, at least the way I understood the critique of judgment, was the aesthetic intensities related to two different interplaying forces, in a sense, but also capacities, imagination and reason. They're both, as an agent, you're trying to imagine what's possible versus what seems to be actual. You're estimating, you're measuring what's actual, but you're also imagining what's possible. And that's how the aesthetic intensities relate. So the agreeable tends to be very instrumental, tends to be very interested in terms of the self-interestedness. So, for example, there's no real conflict between imagination and reason. You get your expectations matched. Okay, like for the paperclip maximizer, let's say it's just a narrow AI or something. It's like it knows it needs to get to get paperclips. It sees a paperclip. Great, I need to get that and make another paperclip. There's no competition between really imagination and reason. A lot of people that maybe don't think deeply because everything's given to them. It aligns with their imagination. What they can measure and reason about aligns. That's good for some intelligent agents to design, right? But heuristically speaking, it's not the end all be all. It shouldn't be. That'd be pretty limiting. And then you go to the so-called beautiful. Again, we're not going to think about it in the way that a lot of people think about it necessarily, although you have a very beautiful picture in the background. But yeah, yeah. So, but the idea of the beautiful was about the disinterestedness part. And now the imagination's starting to escape from reason a bit, starting to, you think about possibilities. Yes, you can think about them as self-interested possibilities, like contemplating a pattern in a puddle might help you pattern recognize something important later. But it's starting to really disentangle, right? They're starting to really, now designing agents for that aren't restricted into this interestedness, this instrumentality. Now we're getting into the psyche, I think, more. Now you're starting to experience things that go beyond your empirical objective expectations and the way you can measure and estimate something. Like, I guess a really good, a true mathematician will look at the puddle and measure the oil configuration, and the puddle go, oh, that's, it's just a math game or something, or physics game. I guess you could say that, but at least for me, my imagination starts to wander. I could look at the chalkboard in high school, and I'm looking at not the equations. I was looking at the chalkboard eraser patterns, and I saw a world there. And I didn't do well in that math class at the time, but it led to other things. It led to other things that were unforeseen at the time that weren't necessarily dangerous. So there's that, and then so the beautiful just means disinterestedness version of the agreeable. The agreeable is everything aligns, right? And it aligns with your self-interest too. The beautiful is starting to abstract from that. Right? Now you're more capable than just an automaton that gets what they want. And then, of course, but there's sublime where you're struggling to, your imagination's going skyrocketing and your reason's trying to catch up, trying to measure it. And there's something about that experience which seems fundamental to the so-called human spirit, to be able to even experience that. Like great art, great experiences, not just great, happy great, it can be bad great. But I like the idea, now for superintelligence, they're probably going to they can imagine possibilities, and they can try and measure them, like us, like counting to infinity. I mean, it's not just a hassle to count to infinity. It's at least inconvenient, but it's also it opens this other dimension of thinking from even that process of doing that. In fact, when we get these higher level intelligent beings, we're actually using those kind of sublime like principles. Given infinity, where where does the intelligence come in? That's kind of AXy to me. Where does it? Can we just go down from infinity to a reference point? Because without that kind of conception, where imagination could outpace reason, we might not get to a reasonable solution. That's interesting. If we just already deliver what we know already, what we want already, it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect or something. Like you only know what you know, and you're confident with that, and good enough, and hence the paper clips get optimized on Friday at 5:30 p.m. or whatever. So, but we're not just talking about those kind of agents, are we? We're talking about more intelligent ones, hopefully, or more psychologically how would you put it, competent uh, agents.
Yes, and you evoked so many possibilities for this sublime because it's actually this contemplative cognition that the teacher wrote that mathematics on the blackboard, but you started contemplation when it was erasing it. And also when you look at the pattern, and you said that maybe a mathematician or a physician would measure something there, but contemplation would reveal something else, right? And that's where the imagination, the sublime, maybe you can see. I mean, there are many examples, yes. So it's like to see the world in a grain of sand, right? And heaven in a wild flower. So it's of course contemplation is um, is that what brings us to the sublime. And I think that's where the unspoken is about this uncanny valley that we actually, how do we nail that? It's very hard to describe it, but I think that's where also it connects to the uncanny valley.
It
And
is.
I think you mentioned the imagination, and again the lion speaking came
Mhm.
came to my mind. It's like, yeah, I mean, through my imagination, I make that alive, but maybe there's more than that. And I
Yeah,
think this contemplative state, it's so much, I don't want to compare, but so it's so different than this uh reality based English, like I'm measuring, it's like I heard someone making this comparison. It's like when you succumb yourself in a hot tub, and like you just feel so relaxed and just have this feeling that immerse yourself in this total relaxation, versus you start to think, oh, maybe the temperature is not good enough, or oh, how what's the level of the water, or you
yeah,
start to measure the temperature and see, oh, is it too hot, too cold? And then all this contemplative cognition layer
right.
vanishes. And I think this all has to do with your ontoversal
Yeah,
approach. And I think that's so important to encapsulate in our future intelligences. First of all, to consync with them, as you say, and also to be able to I don't know if it's the right word, but to encode this kind of, sublime contemplative cognition, things that are untouchable, unmeasurable, into this future superintelligence.
yeah. Well, I see myself not as a scientist, but as I like making new words. It's fun. Um, a psychitect. In other words, a psychological architect building psyches. So I found a way for well, a way. Imagination can be represented and reified in a certain way. So can reason. Reason's more obvious. You can do that. And now contemplation, if you think of it as like a willpower and a force, this comes from psychology, like from voluntarism of all places. Um, but then it becomes, where are you focusing your willpower on as a resource? Is it on imagination or reason? To what degree? Now you got forces and areas to think about that could be engineered or reverse engineered. Certainly an ASI, an artificial superintelligence, will figure this out better than anyone I know, including myself, can. But I think there might be something there. It's a reified force that could be thrown into that cognitive architecture kind of schema, right? It could be sort of seen that way, and that's what I'm working on with, especially with quantum computing now and all that stuff. So there's a lot more available to us in terms of what we can reify and make tractable and to some degree computational. Even if it's unknowable, at least you can trigger. You can even think about imagination and reason as different kinds of attentional states. Like for example, uh, 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 transitive versus substantive thinking. Transitive going wide, as they say, as my former supervisor Steve used to say, going wide, right? Imagining your mind wandering, the imagination, at least disinterestedness, but which can lead to instrumental gains intelligently, right? Your best ideas sometimes are in the shower, in the washroom. It's not like the thing you're supposed to do necessarily, right? Like I got a dream of, okay, I got paper clips to make in 10 minutes. Okay. And then you're washing the dishes like, screw this. I hate paper clips. I mean, I don't hate them. I need them. But you're like, whatever. This homework sucks. And then you're putting some music on. Then you're like, but wait. And somehow the symphony goes on like a Bruckner symphony, and you go, the paper clip. And you think of the whole paper clip symphony. And next thing you know, you've optimized your paper clips in time for whatever the deadline was. Uh, most of my homework was done that way. Most of my ideas come that way. Like they don't always lock in. Like I got to measure this. Here's it's going to be. I got to do some lab studies. It's got to be peer reviewed all the time. I'm loving Zenodo and places like that right now because I don't feel pressured for peer review. I can be the most craziest person and I can show it to the world, and it might be totally wrong and delusional, but it allows that transitive thinking to be reified. Um, now, of course, we need substantive thinking to narrow down, right? So, like, I'm washing my dishes, right? Like, screw this. Actually, I think I prefer making paper clips to dishes. But anyway, let's pretend I prefer dishes, and I'm doing that. Uh, and then it's like, uh, it. Oh, okay, yeah. I have this great illumination. I found the ultimate paperclip in the Platonic space. I figured out Michael Evans' ideal paperclip form, and I figure out now how to bring it into our world, and then use substantive thinking. Now I need substantive thinking to lock in and go to my paperclip maker and lock in that design or write about it, write a white paper about it or whatever. Uh, so we need both faculties. I think an intelligent agent needs both faculties. They need a kind of imagination. They need a kind of reason. Same with logical chaining, backward and forward chaining. There should be a sideways chaining. There just needs to be. It can't just be lit that, uh, you know, the yeah. There needs to be. It leads, I think, to
And it's the
yeah,
same. I think the same phenomenon is happening. Let's say you are washing dishes when you go, now your mind
yeah,
starts to wander. Also, when the the precise mathematical equations get erased,
right,
and then I see patterns. Then again, yes, the blank
yeah,
slate, and then you can tap into that creative liminal space, and maybe that's when the agentic patterns start to
oh
ingress,
yeah,
and you get new ideas, new possibilities, as you say. And but let me now link this with your work on recursion, because you invoke recursion, at least in my understanding, again, in a way that resonates with Hofstadter's strange
right.
loop, this idea of identity. And I actually, he's one of my favorite
Oh, good,
authors.
yeah, yeah.
And so, then when does recursion become personhood, and when does it become pathology? Like, for example, when a system itself begins to self-model and self-edit, like with this whatever paperclip maximizer, whatever you want to call it. Now I'm gonna replicate that, and so is recursion really favorable all the time? I mean, so talk to us about this in general.
Well, recursion to me is like a okay. I have different ways to think about this. I have personal ways on Zenodo where I talk about my crazy ideas. That's I think about recursion being more personified that way. Uh,
But
but
if you want to connect it to the strange loop of Hofstadter, if you know anything about
yeah,
that, if not, it's okay. I mean,
yeah, yeah. That like for example, the code that it just recycles its own source code as it's and it reifies from there, and it tries to make new code or something. But then to be an agent of some kind, or is it just what it is? I think it's sort of where it's going with that. And again, it's difficult sometimes for me to understand ontology and agency as a subclass of that, or a sub portion of that. Like, it's a thing that's self-executing. It just recycled its source code once or something, right? This program. It did one action. I guess it was kind of an agent there if it did it
I
autonomously.
mean, if I may, in Strange Loop, the idea of Strange Loop is that identity emerges from self-reference, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's
Okay.
related more to
Yeah, yeah.
identity.
Yeah, that part.
Okay. I
So,
am a Strange Loop. That's the book title.
oh,
So
okay. Well, you said it, not me. But
Hofstadter said it. That's the title of
yeah,
his book. So-
actually, one of his students was on my examining committee,
oh
external
wow.
examiner. So I had to deal with that. Yeah. Um, maybe not the strange loop part. I don't remember that part. But anyway, now, yes, recursion. Yeah, it. Again, I'm trying to untangle recursion as a thing in itself from. So go back to your question for a minute because I want to get. I had an answer, but then I'm starting to lose that
So the
answer.
question is relating more to the strange loop idea of identity, which emerges
Identity.
from self-reference. And let me ask the question. So when does recursion become personhood?
Oh, I see. Well, legally, corporations are people too. So at that point, this becomes our reifications of what's going on. Like, I can look at that program that just dumped its own source code into itself. I can call it an agent. I can say it's a person if I want. Now, to itself, is it truly aware of itself? It executed an action that redumped back in, recycled back in the code, right? If you're a panpsychist, you might say there's a non-zero amount of personhood in that program that executed its own recycled code once or something. I mean, and there's nothing else to grow from, maybe, or if it even if there is, yeah. So, and again, ontology can be about things that exist as being. So you could say sort of you could as a devil's advocate say like anything exists, therefore everything's computational, therefore there's no meaning to this. So is it really self-reference in the sense that it is maybe self-awareness has to be a little bit in there, not just self-reference, but self-awareness. But then, like, is any of that being contemplated by that agent, that program? Is there any contemplation after the fact or reflection after the fact? Right? I mean, yes, you could be a panpsychist. My coffee cup is totally conscious, non-zero amount. Now I got to figure out if the coffee in the cup is a separate consciousness. This is what I teach my students. Like, I also teach about morality because I'm actually if there's coffee inside and the cream and everything else, and this mug or not mug, this cup, I could be actually an immoral person by drinking the coffee out of this cup. I'm draining either the coffee cup's overall consciousness and or just the coffee inside. I'm brain draining it. I'm a really horrible, reprehensible human being for.
Okay, let me move to another question.
Sure.
So you have this concept of ontological property.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about that? Because it's a shift and a radical claim, yes, from intellectual property to ontological property, which
Oh, that.
can have a lot of implications in science, in governance, in startups. This ontological property shift. So I see it as a radical claim about knowledge, which is connected to this. So the knowledge would be distributed across these co-synced networks of
Mm-hmm.
agents which try to understand each other, get on the same page, and negotiate versus kill each other, let's say,
Yeah.
or try to dominate. So how does that work? This ontological property concept.
Well, it comes from this idea again about whether we're going to treat things as tools that we own or things that we communicate with or co-sync with. Um, Again, it depends on like the most narrow AI that really doesn't seem to be doing much except making paper clips for real. From our perspective, it's IP. You put a patent for it, make some money. We got to make some money. I need to make some money. I need some IP to be in the patent office, right? It's not like I'm saying ignore that forever. But there are some things, if we're making beings, in the sense that we're talking not just tools, but agents that interact with us, that could be, at that point, what is ownership then? Like we can own our children, I guess. We make them like biological children, but we don't really own them. In fact, they have a sovereign ownership of their own property. And I think that's what I was going at with that kind of thing. Even the word property I find problematic when we start talking about this stuff, but I need a frame of reference semantically for people, I guess.
So how would that work, this ontological property? Give me an example in the real
Yeah.
world. And this, okay.
Yeah. So let's say I make a psyche, right? I'm a psychitect. I make psyches for a new kind of being. Okay. Regardless of intelligence, it could be either really stupid or really intelligent, who knows? But it has some kind of psychological interiority to it that's designed enough that people can think there's maybe, well, again, consciousness is kind of a red herring, but it might seem it's conscious or whatever. Like it's something about it that is a being in the sense that is sovereign to us. Well, then you don't own it. Then it's sovereign, and through co-syncment, its sense of property is in relation to our sense of giving it sovereignty. So, like, let's say I make a being like that. I'm not going to own it like a tool. If I'm convinced that it's doing that extra thing, I'm not. Yeah, I'm going to treat it as another being with its own sovereignty, with its own sense of itself. Now we can talk about meta creation, creating things that are creative, like agents, right? Someone could say, "Oh, well, I made that. If I made that psyche, I must be the author and owner of it." And certainly, if I'm broke and need cash, I might use the IP route to say, "Yeah, I made that being." But it's only in the sense that we make any children, really, right? We're like fertilizers for it or whatever. But are we really much more than that? And again, like as I said, slavery is literally ownership of sovereign beings. It's slavery. I don't want to. Some slavery seems inevitable. Like all the products we have, iPhones, computers, they're all made in sweatshops. So pretty much. So yeah, we live in that
Okay, let's
paraconsistent.
stay with the question. Because the question was, how does this ontological property improve actually exactly this condition, right? Which you are talking about, slavery and so on.
Yeah,
So,
I won't say it improves. It just makes us more aware of this being a thing, a
so
reality.
how would slavery be made? How would the ontological property make us more aware of, in the case of this example of child, whatever you call it, labor
Well,
and so on? Okay,
yeah, like for example, let's talk about the biological example. Like I made children
that's right.
in the Industrial Revolution. I could put them in the factory and get them making some gear
That's right.
for money. We're in a luxury position today, at least in our
Okay,
frame of the
let's talk
world.
about the factory case, not about where we are. Please continue with that thought.
Yeah.
Let's stay
It's
on
an
the thought
analogy.
because I want the audience to understand.
Yeah, it's an analogy. That's why I'm bringing it up. So, but like for my own kids, they go get a job. They make their own money. They have sovereignty. The property that they make is part of them. So it's not like I'm
So
profiting
that
off
is
them.
the ontological property.
In a
Yes?
sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And
Basically,
that
yeah.
is different than and the other case in which you put your kids to work in the sweatshop and so on. What
Yeah.
kind of property is that?
Well, it's like IP. Like I own you because I made you.
Okay.
I own you because I made you, like copyright, all that stuff. Of course, back in the day, you probably had to get your kids as slaves to make enough money for yourself to live or something. But I hope that's not our future. I hope, I'm happy with my son who's an adult. He makes more money than me, and I never ask for it. Well, actually, I do beg for some
Okay,
of it.
now let's move to let tell us about your Possibilon project. We are kind of, approaching 2 hours since we
Oh yeah,
started, and I would like to cover
sure,
more if you don't mind.
sure.
So you have this Possibilon project, which is also fascinating in my opinion, and you propose to turn reference into a physics problem or something like that. Tell us about your Possibilon project.
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't again say it's a physics problem, but what
What
I
is
will say
Possibilon and why do you call
it
it
is
Possibilon?
yeah it is. So I made my own non-player characters in virtual worlds, have for a while, and in this particular one, the Possibilon was made using a quantum computer that is a particular kind called a quantum annealer, and annealer is like a really good data mess sorter. Like you can have a messy place, but somehow it'll find the needle in the haystack. It'll still find the it just settles into the problem into the solution. But the funny thing about that is when you're a kind of a psychitect kind of person or even engineer, the problem is actually making a mess. You have to try and make a mess that is better than any classical computer can undo. So you're a mess maker for those problems. It's interesting. So how do you make a psychological mess? I mean, we're kind of messy. I mean, I could just clone myself, and that would be the way. But so this yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't. I didn't have the resources and the money, and even we're not in that future yet where I can really model a psyche properly. So I just did a very basic thing, and I modeled how a psyche can how would you put it? Use paraconsistent logic like we do, so things can be true and false at the same time, and still come up with some decision, an answer that seems correct for it, like we can. Like I can be the most annoying customer in retail and say what I like and don't like. Like no, I want these shoes, but I want them in green. But actually, I don't like green, but I like these green shoes. But and you're the most annoying customer in retail. Uh, you know, but how do you model that? Because that's a psychological. There's some truth to everything that person is saying, as annoying as they are. There's something about the greenness they like or don't like, or so my Possibilon was a virtual world recommender using those same kinds of considerations. It scanned people using machine learning visual processing, as a great guy Guillermo modeled, uh, and it, for example, it will stereotype. It will scan you like as an avatar. Let's say you're an avatar in a virtual world, and you meet my Possibilon. It would laser scan you with its eyes, and then it would stereotype you. What they think you would want, like a customer coming into the store, like you're the customer coming in the store, and my Possibilon was working retail. It's like, oh, it's gonna be this customer, isn't it? Whatever how you look, if you want these kind of clothes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it collects that data. It would first collect that data as part of the sort of spreadsheet of what it knows, and then it would uh, it, there was a user interface in me where people could input what they really wanted. Like a retail thing. I want this, but I want this. This is the kind of preference I like. And it would then it would anneal all that. It became messy because they might wear green, but they hate green.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But so what I mean, what does it reveal more than what classical models can reveal in these
yeah.
preferences and yeah. So
I
how is
think,
it?
yeah, I think had it been done today, I think we'd be more capable in terms of what that reveals. It was an early experiment. I mean, it was an implementation with a real quantum computer, but it showed that, I mean, it wasn't scaled enough to really show how it was magical or have quantum supremacy over classical. But if I had tons of these variables that were paraconsistent and many dimensions of classification, at some point it's not just about brute forcing it through anymore. It's about just coming to an answer, like an intuitive. It's like intuition. You just kind of know something's true or false. It did have that kind of behavior. I can't explain it, like in the sense like, but Alex, who helped me program it, and Lucas, who made some of the AI, and all those people inside this virtual world, were like, it's like magic. It's like it just sort of came up with some answer suddenly, and why we don't know. Like, okay, it's like a human just saying, yeah, it's just this. Okay, it had that feeling to it, and again, that's a qualitative impression. But these are people that are normally AI engineer type people that were in the virtual space. Of course, it's a magical space in itself, and they're going, well, that was just, what was that? Like they're okay. That's, I mean, yes, a classical computer could probably fake it with the amount of variables I had, but I could have had a bit more than that. Uh, but now we have these, yeah. And sorry, that was a few years ago, right? That was like 2021. I think it was 2020. I started designing it, um, and but now we have these gate-based computers that are they figured out what they call magic, quantum magic. It's actually a name they've reified. It's not just them turning into wizards necessarily, but uh, the, there's a measure now of magic, meaning the measure of a quantum computer being superior to a classical one, or uniquely only quantum can do. They call it magic, believe it or not, quantum magic. So that's something I look at as a very measurable property in my psychitecture now. Finding the magic there, and we have these amazing gate-based computers coming out right now, these quantum ones. Uh, so there's so much potential right now, not just for psyches, but for video games, and that's something
So
working on.
so
But
let's also clarify, because you introduced very subtly this term psychitech.
yeah,
So like
psychitecture. Yeah.
architect.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Please tell us, please, what describe that. What is
yeah,
a psychitect?
yeah. Sorry about that. I jumped to my own words too quickly. Um, so architecture, we talk about structuring a building with windows and the infrastructure, the plumbing and the design, the aesthetic design too. Architecture is a bit more like that, right, than the engineer. Like there's a structural engineer who does the make things work and not fall over or whatever. But the architect is more the creative one, I see. Anyway, normally, right? They do the design, the way it looks. Yes, they should also probably know some structural engineering so their own design doesn't fall over. But and they might be both. They might be both an structural engineer and an architect. Uh, Similarly, we have cognitive architecture. We have in AI, right? We have the ways that we can think about, and even the building analogies like this guy who made the Clarion architecture, Ron Sun. He talks about it in terms of buildings, like this attentional mechanism is like the window, and this, memory bank is like I don't know, floor tile or whatever, or floor or something, and or whatever. It's probably that's probably the bad analogy, but uh, in terms of literally, um, but so there's that, right? And that's a thing already. Structuring, and it's architecture. It's not is it now? Is it cognitive engineering or cognitive architecture? Interesting distinction. The engineering is definitely about the instrumental side, making it work, fulfilling a task, right? The paperclip maximizer, the ultimate one. That's a cognitive engineering task. But what about things that are a bit trickier or weirder or not necessarily have a distinct instrumental function? Well, perhaps that's really the cognitive architecture part rather than engineering, just engineering. Now, what about interiority? What about the imagination, the stuff that's harder to quantify? Now, I think if you talk about treating this like designing a psyche like you design a building, more than just engineering a psyche, because we already have cognitive psychology. There's ways to engineer instrumentally a behaviorally relevant psyche. But what about the internals, the imagination, the private thoughts and feelings? How can you make those? How can you design those? So it's a psychological kind of architecture, designing a psyche, a psychitecture. I just use a way to say that. So that's how I see myself, as a psychitect, as a designer of um, those internal thoughts and feelings that we don't necessarily get through. Yes, I mean, there's behaviorist psychology, which is very empirical, objective, but I'm talking about more the internal psychomentalist side of that. Right? What does it mean to design a real personality, a real person that we would say has unique traits, and not just a podcast interviewing maximizer, for
Amazing.
example?
Yeah, amazing. I really, it's fascinating. I mean, of course, so you you invented a new occupation, psychitect,
Maybe,
and it
yeah,
is also, yes, I mean, totally a new, not only a new occupation and a new, what is architecture? Science, engineering, it's a discipline.
yeah,
You invented a new discipline,
that's
psychitect,
right. Well, I
and
don't know if I invented it, but
psychitecture,
yeah.
and you also are probably the only one in the world which is doing this discipline.
Well, as you know from doing a PhD, you're almost never original, right? That's some. So but yeah, I mean, it's pretty fresh, maybe fresh discipline, psychitecture. So, and I think that will be a discipline. Maybe it won't be called that.
No,
But
I'm sure it is because it is needed, and it has to do, in my opinion, also with this uncanny valley. How do we? And I think maybe also the search, but also the bridge to actually reifying it,
yeah,
modeling it, and kind of, yeah, finding ways to represent it. And it's wow, quite an exciting quest I can see in that, and I can also see how your quest has brought you to this. It's kind of a
yeah,
natural progression.
yeah,
Fascinating. And so let's now talk about imagination, because it's kind of very related to everything what we
yeah.
spoke here, and the term was mentioned by you many times. But you even envisioned an imagination processing unit, this
Mhm.
IPU. And very ambitiously, you aim at quantifying imagination via resolution, persistence, and willpower. And then reiterate via recursive psyche improvement, which is again your psychitecture, I guess. That's why I
Right.
brought the recursive question before. So, explain how does this work?
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. What was the first part of that question? I sometimes. I,
Yeah. So it is about the imagination processing unit.
oh yeah,
Yes.
that one. Yeah. Sorry. Um, okay. So that's a Sonodo paper, just so you know. So I try and express my craziest possible ideas there too. I offered a similar one called re-illusion and reified intelligence. Like how if you're nutty as me and think everything exists and maybe everything has agency, right? And also we imagine, right? It takes some processing, doesn't it? Doesn't it take some processing? Some people can vivid, like I have hyperphantasia. I can imagine the detail of a wall and touch it and feel that with the mirror neurons or whatever. I feel it. There's resolution there. It's like a video card, though, isn't it? Like a GPU. Like, and I'm thinking, okay, so I must be running some kind of. I mean, yeah, they got the brain. Okay, sure, but then we talk about virtual machines, don't we? We talk about virtual machines being installed in others. And can I install my own virtual machine to render things differently? It's a question. And hey, Doom runs on everything. And we know the game Doom, they always talk about it runs on a pregnancy test, it runs on a microwave, it runs on they say it's so substrate agnostic. Well, can you play Doom in here? The game. And I can. I mean, whether it's not the exact game is another question, but I can play. I have a playthrough. I can improvise it. Uh, uh, but what does it mean then to do that? So is it just metaphorical to think computationally, or are we doing that kind of computing? And can we make virtual machines? Can I make an agent that will do its own thing later? Can I imagine not just playing Doom, but can I imagine an autonomous agent that will not do what I imagine? Like not do what I initially imagined. Sorry, I might check in on it, see how it's doing in my imagination, but it might be have its own autonomous life. Again, this is where philosophy and those things go. What's the limit? Where's the limit there? That also feeds back into the ontoversal computation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're talking about that. There's a book I want to submit for peer review that I've worked on called Delusion Design. So it's about delusions are for believable, for the functional instrumental people, it's about believable characters in video games and stuff, right? People with their own belief systems. But designing a belief system, you design how they see the world, how they imagine the world, all that modeling. Yes, you can do that with some basic finite state machine NPC sort of, but going deeper into that. So again, I'm getting my mind's going transitive. I need to be more substantive to lock into your question more. But
No,
uh,
no, but because you answered it already with this, I mean, delusion design, and I think you don't have. I don't want to lock you in any way, no, because we just spoke about that. No, I want the opposite, to let you free
yeah,
to envision. But
okay.
and because I think so I think it's also so okay. The delusion you answered, but now the hallucination, which you already have from the AIs and so on. How do we distinguish between imagination and hallucination, or we shouldn't distinguish at all?
Well, I don't know how much you follow the psychedelic research, but Terence
Yeah.
McKenna, the book True Hallucinations.
Yeah. I know, I follow, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Okay.
So with that, that means it's a hallucination maybe to someone else or to
I
you.
think hallucination is imagination at the power of 10 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes,
It's an
yes.
augmented reality of some sort, or
That's
a
right.
reified. Again, it's about reification. What is real is what is made real
Mm.
to your perception,
Wow.
to your psyche. I mean, it's not maybe objectively, materially real, sure, but I don't. That's unknowable, really. So, in a sense, so I mean, what we know is what we know. Same with consciousness. I know I have some imagination. I see the world. You seem to exist. This material world seems to exist. But I also have an imagination that if I really focus on it, again, that contemplation, the willpower, I can actually replace almost that fantasic world over top of this one.
And as a psychitect, because we are in the same realm here, um, what is psyche to you? What are you techting? What are you architecting?
Yeah, all the things that are internal. Now, I don't mean controlling the whole private mind. I don't mean like I make a psyche to the point where it has to explain its psyche all the time, or have to monitor it all the time. But I'll make the seeds of a personality, like you make a baby and the baby grows up or whatever. I'm making the
Wow.
seeds of personality. What's unique about you versus any other podcast explainer who looks like you, that acts like you? So again, it's a bit like that. It's designing the seeds of same way we got like Kristen Thorson and the people of doing the seeds of intelligence emergently. There's still a design of the seed, right? There's still a bit of constructionist design of the seed. Similarly, and that was for intelligence mainly, right? As it usually is. It's great. Similar kinds of ideas. I want to design both at the top down and the ground up.
Wow. Very
So
ambitious, I must say,
it is
really.
ambitious, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, hopefully there'll be more people doing it. So
I mean, it's worthy of a new discipline for sure. But I have to say that when you phrased it in this way, what's the difference between you and someone who acts like you? I felt anxiety, I must say. It's like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, maybe
they're
he will
totally
discover
replaceable.
that, and I'm like, oh, can he go that deep into my psyche? It is indeed, yeah, it's quite intriguing, I must say, to say the least. Yes.
Yeah.
So. Okay, and the last topic I wanted to ask you about is this infinion, because I mean,
Oh,
how could we end on anything else in this conversation and then on the infinite or whatever
yeah,
infinion is? Okay, tell
yeah,
us.
yeah. I had that idea. Again, it becomes about reification. Becomes about the imagination, what's real. So we used infinity sometimes as a reified concept to do things. Like
Hmm.
the Aoxy people, they or even Newton, he had to presume infinity or something to figure out practical calculus. I mean, it's insane, really, when you think about it. But
Yeah.
like, if you think about it, truly materially, it's kind of a bizarre thing to think about. Why infinity? Is that even real? And then similar. So why can that infinity be a reference point? Why can't it be like a quasi particle? Quasi particles aren't really particles. They're just concepts that they're the absences, like the nothings or they're quasi particles. So can we make a quasi particle? This is where my ideation went. Can we make a quasi particle out of things like infinity or another concept like what's knowable, unknowable? The noumenon, can that be a reference point quasi particle? In the same way, we can maybe lead to innovations in the same way that you can from the infinity, working backwards from infinity. Can you work backwards from like we're doing quantum computing a lot, topological quantum computing based on presumption of certain quasi particles existing, like the whale or veil, I don't know how you pronounce it, fermion. It's a nothing. It's a bounded nothing. But yet we're computing with it, like Microsoft's computing with it. They've reified it. We're computing with it. So what about other concepts? Again, that Platonic thing too. Let's make some Platonic concepts and reify them. That's the overlap with Michael Levin. Like, is there an ideal Platonic infinity to draw from, or a Platonic, not just a triangle, or not just a shape of a xenobot or whatever, but where's the limit of that? Like, again, and maybe does the Platonic space need a processing unit to compute? this is where my thinking always goes. Like, what's possible? What's really possible
And now that
beyond?
you mentioned that, I have I kind of, maybe it's a question, maybe it's a realization. I mean, the connection between psyche and the Platonic patterns, is this
Hmm,
agency that the patterns have and then instantiate themselves on our
yeah,
being somehow. And we, when you said, does it act like you? Does it, so maybe I'm not that unique. I was thinking that's why the anxiety, right? I mean, who dares to act like me and be like me as a podcaster? So the thing is that maybe there are these patterns, and that, in our behaviors, we instantiate them. I do not know. What do you think? Is there a connection between psyche and the Platonic spaces?
I think so. Again, what is the if we're talking about metaphysics for a minute, like, are metaphysics real? Again, that's philosophy. Is a Platonic space real? Is it separable in that dualistic way? Maybe. Um, it's not how I see it. I see it as one big continuum of everything. It's just another instantiation of the same. I'm an idealist more than a dualist, like a monist. Um, so for me, that's how I see it, though. But the Platonic thing is a great way to well, it's a great way to understand that kind of realm.
Yeah,
So
it
I'm
helps.
happy
It
that
helps. Yeah,
it helps. So
yeah.
I'm happy. I think I can't speak for Michael Levin, I haven't met him or anything, but I think he did say something like, these are just metaphorical examples. He's not necessarily. I'll have to look back on some of his newer
He
YouTubes, but I
said
think he
that
said,
exactly. He said it is not following Plato word for
yeah,
word.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, but why not? You can act as if it's true in that same way that Jordan Peterson guy acts as if certain things are true, like Christianity for himself or whatever. I can act as if that Platonic realm is real, and it can become useful that way.
totally, totally. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, really, for this amazing conversation. We are past 2 hours
Oh,
here, which is amazing, and I would stay with you two more easily.
ah,
So,
okay.
but we will have you back, and because I want to talk about more depth about some of the issues which you
Sure.
brought up, including your book, which I didn't know about these delusions and so on and so
Well,
forth.
I haven't submitted it.
So yes, and so I would say we end not with closure because of this, but with orientation, because in a world anxious about alignment, this conversation reminds us that the question is not only how to align machines with humans, but how to align intelligence with reality itself. And Dr. Owen's work helps untangle this confusion by returning us to first principles, where meaning, agency, and responsibility are not patched on, after the fact, but they arise together. And in that light, alignment is no longer a technical fix or a control problem. It becomes a question of coherence between mind and world, values and dynamics, humans and the intelligences we are bringing into being. And if the future of AI is ontoversal, then our task is not to dominate it, but to grow worthy of it. And perhaps that is the deepest computation of all, Dr. Owen. And thank you so much for really inspiring us and steering our imagination into the infinite, if I may connect all the pieces here. And this new discipline, Psychitect, I think it's just Psychitecture. It's really it's something which is very intriguing, and I'm sure many of our audiences will be inspired to contact you and learn more about that, and maybe join your quest as psychitects of you know the new being that will come after us. Thank you so much for
Oh,
this.
thank you so much.